Sonoma, California, 2002. At Infineon Raceway, the Factory 5 National Championships just begun. Known as a spec race, all cars must be built exactly the same, pitting driver against driver for a grueling 40 minutes. And they were all built in someone's garage, from a kit.
We've got a replica race series that's phenomenally fast, powerful cars, lightweight, reliable. The guys build their own cars and race.
The Challenge Series car is the Factory 5 Roadster, a replica of one of the fastest cars of its time, the Shelby Cobra. These supercharged ultralight versions can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds flat.
Back in the 60s, you would never see 30 Cobras on a track racing. As a kit car company, it's unimaginable to think that we would be sponsoring our own racing series. And I think that that racing part of our company makes our product better.
And year after year, they've continued to improve. Today's most powerful sports cars have some stiff competition. In independent tests, the Factory 5 Roadster accelerated to the top 2 of top-rated European and American supercars tested, just behind the Ferrari Enzo. But no one can touch its price tag, starting at just $20,000. But before you can build the ultimate classic sports car replica in your garage, first you need the ultimate kit. Factory 5 in Wareham, Massachusetts is the brainchild of American-born brother duo Dave and Mark Smith, and it's taken the project car business by storm.
We're building the very heart of the car, the very heart of speed, the chassis, suspension, the body panels, the very substrate that a guy uses to build his own supercar.
Home-built vehicle kits aren't a new idea. In the 1970s, with supercars outside most people's price range and many classic car bodies rusting to pieces, the average gearhead looked for a cost-effective way to own a new car with classic style. Though popular, these fiberglass body kits were usually poorly constructed shells, bolted to average automobiles.
You know, a kit car used to be kind of the stepchild of the auto industry.
In addition to shoddy kit craftsmanship, with car technology improving at a rapid rate, even the classics themselves needed a high-tech boost. Enter a new breed of replica car kit manufacturers with a whole new set of standards.
If you drive an original 69 Camaro, it was a great car, but you'll find that, geez, it doesn't ride quite well, it's pretty heavy, the brakes don't work as well as modern brakes. If you look at a replica today, it's in many ways much better than an original car.
The Factory 5 philosophy? Build to the highest levels of supercar performance while keeping the cost down.
You know, everyone has posters of Lamborghinis and Ferraris on their wall at home, and particularly when they're kids. You know, most of them cost more than your average house. So basically for us it was, what can we do to make that car something that the average guy who can put together something in his garage can have.
The company offers a host of technology-driven car projects from sports cars to hot rods, even including a state-of-the-art supercar created by Factory 5's own chief designer, Jim Schenck. It's called the GTM, a powerhouse capable of 500 horsepower, hitting 60 miles per hour in a measly 3 seconds. On par with the world-renowned supercars like the Lamborghini Murcielago, at a 13th of the price. Still, at the core of everything is the classic replica Roadster, and a race-ready chassis that maximizes power, handling, and speed.
I mean, the cars turn, they go fast. That's all DNA directly from the track, translated right to the street.
Factory 5 chassis are tested for strength and durability even before a prototype's built. After conquering a series of computer-generated stress tests, measurements are used to laser cut custom parts from plate steel.
We use this software to get all the angles and cuts and design the shapes for the plate steel so that everything fits together perfectly so that we can have it all ordered and come in correctly the first time around.
Even the jigs, or welding braces, are designed on the computer along with the chassis, ensuring parts are aligned perfectly and each welding job produces an exact copy of the original. While most welds are done by hand, Factory 5 recognizes the benefits of robotic welding for some of its parts. To start out the chassis build, they employ a robotic welder to speed up the process for some flat frame sections.
We're going to basically take the pieces off the shelf. There's 9 pieces. We're going to put them inside the jig. From there, the robot will then tack them together and then fully weld them. And that's the side impact of the hot rod.
Now, with all the necessary parts organized on nearby shelves, welder Chris Fernandez begins assembly at the stationary jig. Pulling each part in sequence, the chassis begins to take shape.
This is like putting together a big jigsaw puzzle.
This stage of welding is all about assembly. Using short, fast welds, the various pieces of the chassis are held together. But it's only a temporary bond, keeping the parts in place for the final step. Next, the chassis move to a large rotating jig called a rotisserie.
We put them together in the fixed jig, tack it together just to hold the car together, and then 70% of the welding's done on the rotisserie. And it's a huge advantage. And we can get everything nice and easy in front of us. It takes the awkwardness out of welding it pretty much.
Moving the chassis to the perfect position gives welder Chad Gonzalez the perfect vantage point to complete and inspect each weld carefully, ensuring the highest level of safety.
It's not like a modern day car with airbags, so I mean, we do have to make the frames extra rigid, you know. People's lives depend on it, on our welds, on how rigid the chassis is, so it's pretty important.
For a high-performance chassis welded mostly by hand, Factory 5 turns them out at a furious pace, without skimping on quality.
It's kind of a golden rule in each frame, about 8 hours to build, 8 hours to weld, so looking at 16 hours in total time.
The end result, a chassis built for speed. Based on race car performance standards, Factory 5 chassis are built rigid for improved handling. Working together with the suspension, rigidity provides ultimate control.
The more rigid the chassis, the more the suspension can do its job. So if the suspension is rigid and the chassis is loose, the suspension won't be able to hold the car on the road.
The project car manufacturers at Factory 5 have just finished welding an ultra-rigid racing chassis, the first step in building an ultimate replica racer. But on the track or on the road, a car's ability to protect is its most critical feature.
A lot of customers have been involved in on-track incidents. It's just a matter of fact in racing. And it causes you to really be careful about the way you engineer a part.
It's a reality Dave Smith, co-founder of Factory 5, experienced firsthand. In 1998, at Gateway International Raceway near St. Louis, Missouri, he rolled his open-top roadster, pulling a hard turn. Luckily for Dave, safety's been built into every Factory 5 roadster from the very beginning. He walked away without a scratch.
The way in which we build our cars and the safety and strength that we put into them make a real difference. A human soul travels in each one of these cars.
Amazingly, After a rolling crash, even Dave's Roadster came out virtually unscathed.
Underneath that wreck was a tube-frame chassis that was super strong. We pushed the car over, we had to replace a wheel, some suspension parts, but we had the car back on the track by the end of the day. And that was a three-part competition. We ended up winning King of the Hill with a car that had been rolled.
A necessity for open-top vehicles, every Factory 5 Roadster kit comes equipped with a mandrel bent 3-point driver's side roll bar. Mandrel bending produces uniform thickness throughout the roll bar, ensuring maximum strength. Another racetrack-inspired safety feature? A steel-reinforced footbox. Extra steel tubing here could mean the difference between walking away from a wreck and being carried away.
Well, most replicas on the market didn't have race footbox protection, so we added that to our street cars. Why not? If it's required by a race car, why not put it on a street car? So it's a little bit heavier, but certainly if you're hit from the side by a Ford Explorer, you certainly don't want your feet crushed.
On the street, race-worthy design features like these make the Factory 5 Roadster as safe to drive as it is thrilling.
If I was going to get involved in a wreck, and I've flipped my cars before, I'll tell you what, I'd rather wreck a Factory 5 than any street car on the market.
But Factory 5 takes safety even further with another track-tested design improvement: frame-bolted aluminum panels. Drawing from CAD designs, the factory orders custom laser-cut pieces carved from single sheets of aluminum. Because computer-controlled lasers are used to trim the parts, waste is kept to a minimum. Savings that contribute to the rock-bottom ticket price of a Factory 5 kit.
The computer itself knows how to nest all the parts together, cut them all together so you have minimal scrap, so it saves us a lot of money.
Bolted to the car's chassis, these aluminum panels increase overall strength. Adding to the safety and performance of their cars, Factory 5 only uses T6061 aluminum. It's harder to manipulate than common aluminum, but far stronger.
Our aluminum has a higher carbon count, which makes it a denser aluminum, which adds a secondary structure once you rigid it. The downside to 6061 is it is a bit harder. When you're bending the T6061 aluminum, it's important to get that bend right the first time, because if you have to go back and try to rebend it again, it's going to snap because of the higher carbon count.
Up front, the Factory 5 Roadster's all business, with a custom-designed independent front suspension. It's just one more way Factory 5's taken a classic top-performing car and made it even better.
We've used technology to really make the cars drive better, handle better, stop better. They run and they don't overheat. You know, there's a lot of the vintage aspect and experience of a car that's best forgotten and left in the past.
Putting together the pieces of this advanced suspension system is welder John Dean. With the help of a computer-designed brace, he places each section of steel tubing into perfect alignment. Thoroughly welded, the result is a precisely engineered part: the finished A-arm.
The A-arm holds the tire in place, and when the ball joint's put in, is what makes a tire pivot when you turn. When you turn, that's what the tire pivots on, is the ball joint. There's one on top, and there's also another A-arm that goes on the bottom with another ball joint. That's what makes a tire turn.
Aiding the car's remarkable handling is an incredibly low overall weight. Just over 2,000 pounds. Like a featherweight boxer, the Factory 5 Roadster weaves with stunning sensitivity.
The cars are so light, they really do things that modern cars don't do very well. They're more like race cars.
This weight-to-power ratio also makes for quick deceleration, Laying on the brakes takes the roadster from 70 miles an hour to a grinding halt in less than 160 feet. Faster than some of the world's best and highest priced supercars.
It stops ferociously hard. So when you get on the binders, the car falls down fast.
But don't take Factory 5's word for it. Their car's performance has been put to the test over and over. Caught on tape at the 2002 Factory 5 Championship, driver Dave Borden and his home-built Roadster are about to get tested. Deep into the Factory 5 National Championship race, driver Dave Borden's right behind the leader, Gary Kirschbaum. But a sudden spin-out forces an emergency maneuver, putting car and driver in serious danger. Thanks to a rigid chassis and super tight racing suspension designed and fabricated to perform at top speed, Dave straightens out and tears off. He pulls into the lead with just 2 laps to go, all in a Factory 5 kit car built in his own garage. Back at Factory 5, the finished chassis received its aluminum panels. The next step, construct a replica car body from fiberglass. It's a composite material that's rigid and light. The car kit builders at Factory 5 have completed a super strong chassis and racing suspension. Now it's time for the last fabrication step. Using composites similar to the Viper jet, they'll follow the same formula. The lighter the body, the more engine power can translate to speed. And it all starts with this. Sheets of fabric-like material known as e-glass. A glass fiber matrix that gives fiberglass its structure. Mixed with plastic resin, a finished fiberglass piece is strong and light. First, giant e-glass sheets are laid out on the cutting table. Next, CNC machine operator Jerry Hodson heads to the computer to enter dimensions for his desired cutouts.
So once the software is programmed over in the computer, what we do is it's automatically sent over here and it's just go time after that. So here we go.
Each cutout represents part of the finished car body. But in order for it to take shape, the e-glass cutout needs something to hold its form.
All right, we're gonna go get Jimmy some resin.
At the molding station, Operations Manager Nate Johnson prepares resin for the next step in the molding process. To begin hardening the polyester resin, a catalyst called MEKP, or methyl ethyl ketone peroxide, is added. It's a highly toxic substance, also used in explosives. To make it more user-friendly, fiberglass workers combine it with other compounds like dimethyl phthalate, reducing its volatility.
You'll actually see it change into a darker brown, more uniform color when it's ready to go.
Once the resin is ready, the e-glass cutouts are placed on molds in the shape of finished car parts.
Basically, we got 2 layers of glass going on here for just basic support. You know, 2 layers is obviously more important than 1, adds more sturdiness. Just applying the resin to the glass, let the resin soak in.
After the resin soaks into the e-glass, Factory 5 workers use special tools to roll the resin into a thin layer. Any air bubbles must be removed before the resin hardens.
The sun will increase the size of the air void, so if there's any air in it, once the sun hits it, it'll bring it out through the gel coat and you'll be able to see it from the other side.
Fully hardened, the finished fiberglass part is taken to the red room, where worker Jimmy Gifford prepares a sprayable coating known as the gel coat. The gel coat is a 0.015-inch protective layer, shielding the composite body and providing a working surface on which to paint. Once dry, each coated part's then taken to another CNC machine for precision trimming.
The suction cups will hold the part on there while the robot trims. It's on here, set the air, hold suction, and now we're ready to go. Now this is ready to go get bonded into the trunk skin.
Some parts, like the trunk and hood, require an interior and exterior fiberglass part. Bonding takes anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. With the interior and exterior trunk parts bonded together, a final trim in the CNC cutting machine, and the new part is ready for the next station, chassis assembly. Back at Factory 5, a precision welded chassis, racing-inspired suspension, and composite molded car body meet at the final station before shipping out. The chassis assembly area is the last step in the project car production line and the most critical for the end customer. Here, all the precision-made parts are brought together for a final fitting, inspected one last time to ensure safety, reliability, and performance.
We're the finalized and see it before the customer sees it. So we tend to go over it with a more finer tooth comb. I'm basically looking at this car like it's my car. I look at every car that I make like it's my car because someday somebody's going to drive it, somebody's going to build it. Somebody may push it to its limits. I'd like it to not fail because of something I missed.
After a thorough inspection, workers begin mounting the hood and trunk. Once the body's complete, the final step in the assembly process, boring holes for additional frame-mounted fixtures. The finished result looks almost road-ready, but it's just a shell. As a single piece, the chassis, aluminum panels, and body are much easier to ship and receive. On the customer end, all these parts will come back off. There's no shortcut for Factory 5 builders. In the 26,000 square foot warehouse, Factory 5 stores upwards of 400 different parts, from CNC welded Factory 5 kit parts to genuine commercial car components, like brake pads, needed to complete the job.
You'd have to see the pack list to see how many parts you get. I mean, it's a truly complete kit. You get everything you need. You know, we don't skimp on anything.
Once the order is processed and ready, parts are loaded onto pallets, and the kit cars carefully rolled into the waiting truck for delivery to your door. For customers like Mike Easton, the sight of a Factory 5 truck driving up the street is a bit like seeing Santa Claus.
When I first received the kit, it was totally like Christmas. We had a big crate, they dropped it off in the driveway. First thing I did was get my pry bars and hammers, and then while it was still in the crate, I jumped in the car and got some pictures of me sitting in the car, surrounded by all these pieces, and I'm just sitting in the driver's seat.
The only thing a new owner needs to supply is the engine, running gear, and rear end. Easy parts to track down for a good price.
So I went to the local salvage yard, and I was able to find all the parts I needed. They put it in a pallet and delivered it to my house. Mustang parts are all over the place.
As owners will attest, this kit has everything you need. For the mechanically inclined, a Factory 5 car is one of the easiest things you can build from scratch.
It comes complete. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to figure out how things are going to fit. If you can work a screwdriver and you have basic hand tool knowledge, you can build this car. It's just like building a model as a kid.
In the end, the average Roadster project takes about 250 hours and $20,000 to $30,000 to complete. But for many, it's a small price to make their dream car a reality. The Factory 5 Roadster kit's been built, delivered, and then constructed in a home garage. Now that it's complete, the sensation is beyond a feeling of mere accomplishment. And building a road rocket with your own bare hands deserves more than a pat on the back.
Well, the first time I started up the motor, it felt really good.
Cornering, braking, and tearing off, the Factory 5 Roadster performs like a supercar at a fraction of the cost.
It's just an awesome car. It's fun to drive.
Smooth, high-speed rides like this one are a testament to the amazing design of a high-performance kit car and the driver's flawless build.
Factory 5 and racing are completely inseparable. They're part of who we are as a company.
But Factory 5 isn't content to rest on their laurels. They never stop trying to improve with every new innovation they see.
No two cars are alike of the 7,000 cars that we've built. So every time we see another car, we see something new.